Just I logged onto the space just because it says Epstein files in the title, and that, for better or worse, that's what I've been focusing on for the past 2 weeks or so now. It's amazing how much how many places I've been asked to like comment on this and whatever. So I've been kind of immersed in it more so than recent developments in the Middle East, which I admit I've kind of just sidelined for the past week or so. And one thing I just want to throw out there, I'm just curious like how many people in this room are even aware of it. And I just published something on Substack within the past hour or so, if people want to look at my feed, which is that, it just occurs to me that so much of the debate around Epstein, including some that I've taken part in on this space, deals in the realm of speculation. Like, is there enough smoke for us to justifiably assume that there's fire when it comes to like a blackmail operation or sex trafficking to prominent third party individuals who are implicated in illicit sex acts with minors or stuff having to do with Trump? And, that's all well and good. We can engage in that speculative debate till the cows come home. But one irony that I wanted to sort of spell out in a little more detail in that article is that there's something concrete. There's something that's not based on speculation that is a huge outstanding issue on this story, which is that Steve Bannon, okay? Steve Bannon is currently sitting on more than 15 hours of raw interview footage that he conducted with Epstein in approximately 2018 and 2019. Now, why is this significant? Epstein was famously and notoriously media averse. He evaded the media hyper scrupulously, especially after his prosecution in Florida and conviction in 2008 for state level prostitution charges. But for whatever reason, he came into contact with Steve Bannon in late 2017 after Bannon left the first Trump administration and was in high demand as like a media consultant because Bannon, rightly or wrongly, was seen as like the Svengali who powered Trump's improbable victory in 2016. So there were a lot of people in a lot of different fields in a lot of different countries who wanted to obtain his services as like a strategic or communications consultant. And somehow Bannon ended up providing communications or media consulting to none other than Jeffrey Epstein. And this led to Bannon conducting 15 or 16 hours of interviews with Epstein as like a prep session, because the idea was that in order to rehabilitate his image, Epstein needed to be prepared to sit for an interview with like a network TV anchor, like on 60 Minutes or with Gayle King. Those were some of the options floated. Now, that interview, that prospective network TV interview never happened, but Bannon had this priceless footage, and he released one brief snippet of it in 2021 in a trailer for a documentary that he claimed he was producing. So you see confirmation that this footage exists. It's a one-on-one interview with Bannon and Epstein, and there's like 20 seconds of it in this trailer. Bannon confirmed on the record that he has nearly 16 hours of this footage, which I think we can all agree there would be a gigantic demand for right now, but he's sitting on it. He continues to conceal it. And why is that? Shouldn't he be asked? He was asked kind of in a cursory fashion at this Turning Points USA conference that he gave a speech at last weekend, in which he postures as this heroic truth teller when it comes to Epstein. He's calling for accountability. He wants a special prosecutor appointed, which Trump rejected. He's positioning himself as somebody who's like on the vanguard of calling for maximum disclosure around Epstein, and yet he's probably sitting on the most blockbuster, quote unquote, Epstein files of them all with these interviews. So what are some reasons that he might not be releasing them or like playing coy about them? Because I actually submitted questions to him for this article that I wrote. And even though he's notoriously sort of chatty with media, including me in the past, there was no response. And he's not responded to many journalists who have made this kind of inquiry over the years. So, given that Bannon was in the role of like a media consultant with Epstein or a strategist, of course, if he was prepping Epstein for a network TV interview to be filmed sometime in 2019, this was before Epstein was ultimately arrested in July of 2019 and then died a month later. Obviously, one of the big topics that would inevitably come up was Epstein's relationship with Trump, right? A network TV anchor is obviously going to ask Epstein about Trump because, Trump acknowledged that they were friends for 10 or 15 years. There's plenty of photos and videos of them palling around and partying and so forth. Epstein claimed that he was Trump's closest friend at one point. Now, maybe that was puffery, who knows, but that was at least claimed. So obviously that would come up. So you would have to assume that Bannon would have peppered Epstein with questions about Trump to prepare him for this potentially forthcoming TV interview. So it stands to reason that Bannon has potentially hours of footage of Epstein commenting on his relationship with Trump. So did he and Trump have any business dealings? How many times did they fly on one another's planes? Like, where did they meet? Under what circumstances did they meet? We know that they were in similar circles where, they were in like the modeling industry. It's how Trump met Melania ultimately. So at the very least, there's got to be like a treasure trove of material that Bannon's sitting on of Epstein commenting on Trump. And yet, I don't see that many people, particularly on the right, who are the most sort of inflamed by this, even aware that Bannon has this material. Like, shouldn't they be beating down his door right now, demanding that he release 15 hours of this priceless interview footage? I don't even see that much sort of awareness in the mainstream media. Like, occasionally you'll have like a reference to it here and there, but like it seems like this should almost be at the forefront of the clamor around the quote unquote Epstein files. So anyway, I just find this to be a bizarre like oversight, or I find it very bewildering that this is not more an object of focus. And so if people want more detail, look at the article I just published.
I did see people mention it, but but it was in the context of Elon Musk pushing back, basically saying Steve Bannon's in the Epstein files. Because he's mentioned that a number of times, right, Michael?
Well, right, but what does that mean exactly? I mean, that's been a problem all along. Like when people say Epstein files, it's never clear precisely what they're referring to. Like there's no one consolidated file.
I don't
right?
think
So is it possible?
No, I don't think no one means one consolidated file. I don't think unless they don't know much about the issue, which is fine, like an average person. No one thinks there's one specific file. I think Ryan Dawson's and listeners, I know he put together his own list of people, but there's not one file. It's just all the people who are implicated in terms of Epstein, whether being on his island or I think mainly Ryan's list is people implicated of being on his island because, for example, Trump was on the plane, but they're not on, for example, Ryan's list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's at all plausible that Bannon is implicated in some kind of like personal sexual illicit sexual situation, right? It's more that he's implicated in that he's concealing material. So is it possible that he appears somewhere on a file that might be in the possession of the DOJ? Sure, like it would be a little odd if while this was all being investigated, the FBI did not reach out to Bannon. Right? Like, why wouldn't FBI, which was gathering material to prosecute Epstein with, contact Bannon and say, "Hey, what's up with this interview material? Like that could be used in a trial, right?" So it's possible that Bannon interfaced with the FBI in relation to Epstein. I asked him that question as well when I submitted, some questions, and he hasn't responded. So, I think the Elon angle is a little bit of a non sequitur, like just because, again, the lack of clarity around what it means to be in a quote Epstein file, like. Bannon could be in some file somewhere. It doesn't mean he's implicated in any kind of sexual impropriety. However, there's still a huge obligation that should be on him to be more forthcoming in terms of what materials are in his possession. And I just don't understand why people on the right who have like made this central to their identities are not, again, beating down his door with this question. Like he's like the key
So
figure here in
just
my
on that,
estimation.
Michael, I want to welcome Ryan Dawson onto the stage. He is probably the number one expert on Epstein from the right. And I'd say you've basically now positioned yourself or been positioned by Ben Shapiro as the number one denier of the Epstein list. But Ryan, is there anything you wanted to jump in on that in terms of some of the
like denier. I don't know that I would agree with that, but anyway, go ahead.
like you're the number one, like you know what I mean? You're
I'm
very
a skeptic of a lot of the, I think, outlandish claims that are
well.
constantly made around the story. That's how I would
Yeah, and
characterize it.
you don't believe there was like a, if I remember right from the last debate, you don't believe there was like a blackmail operation. You don't believe there was a like a
There's not sufficient evidence
yeah,
for it. That's my
yeah, yeah.
position.
So Ryan, welcome onto the stage. Jump in with whatever you want to say.
Yeah, well, I just got in, so from what I heard, I agree. I mean, they should be knocking down Bannon's door and asking for whatever footage he has. I think it was called Monster or something. And when people say the file, I think what they're talking about, I mean, I don't know, because this thing ranges. You got your QAnon retards, which are just, just like you have your 9/11 retards. And they're just ridiculous with some of the stuff they come up with. But when they say file, I think they mean like the January 4th document dump of 2023. And what a lot of media outlets did for clickbait is they would say so and so is in the file. And they would try to grab celebrities. So they would say, oh, Stephen Hawkins is in the file, or Leonardo DiCaprio is in the file. And all that meant was somewhere in testimony, somebody's name got mentioned. But that didn't implicate crime at all. Let me just give the quick examples for like the two I just named. When they said Stephen Hawkins, all that was an email between Maxwell and Epstein, which mattered because it meant they were still communicating in 2015. So that's the only importance of that. But Epstein made a joke like, well, are they now going to say we had Stephen Hawkins had a giant orgy, which would be impossible since he had severe ALS and couldn't get out of a chair. It's him being sardonic. Like, what are they going to say now? This ridiculous thing? And everyone's like, oh, Stephen Hawkins liked to watch. Stephen Hawkins was at the island. And it was like, you didn't even fucking read it and get the context. All you saw is like his name and it's in the title. And if you look at the Daily Mail or whatever and you read the article, you find the context, but nobody did. They just read the titles. And the same thing with Leonardo and Cameron Diaz and some of these names. Here's the context of that. They would say, did you ever see Leonardo or Cameron Diaz or so-and-so at these dinners? No, we didn't. But now that their name was mentioned, no, they're in the file. But they're in the file with somebody going, no, I never saw those people. There was some name drops, I think, Epstein on the phone going, oh, that was Cameron or something, trying to impress people. But nobody witnessed any of those people at any of these events. And it's not the island. It's islands, plural. He owned Little St. James and Greater St. James. And when I hear people say the island, I'm like, y'all haven't dug really deep on this, I know. And this is just like Twitter meme stuff. He had 2 islands and he had an office in St. Thomas. He had half of the Virgin Islands on his payroll. He gave the first lady a $200,000 a year salary.
A point of factual clarification on that?
Sure.
So he had the main island, what was the name of the island on which he had his mansion?
That's Little St. James, but the nickname was Little St. Jeffries.
Well, right. So, and that there was an additional island. I know he owned like a dock on. I'm blanking on what the name of the main island now would be in the Virgin Islands that people would have to be ferried to.
No, not St. Thomas, but he had Greater St. James. Yeah, right above Little St. James is a bigger island called Greater St. James. And then northwest of that is St. Thomas, which I think is the biggest island in the chain.
Yeah,
St. Thomas
and St. John. Island on which he had his palatial estate, and then he owned like a port or a dock or some kind of ferry point that people would, like, if they're coming to the island, they would fly into the main island and then be ferried by boat to his.
No, he had 2 islands, and then he had a heliport and dock. What you're talking about is St. Thomas. He had an office there, and he had a heliport there and a dock for boats. So the second island is.
What was on the second island that he owned?
Not much. He didn't have much on either island, just enough to do what he wanted to do.
But did he have houses and stuff on the second
island?
He
had snorkeling and jet skis and some roads.
Like an uninhabited sort of like natural island, essentially.
They both are. I mean, that's so besides him and Maxwell and whoever he brought down there.
So I'm saying, could people live on the second island? It's like, or was it uninhabited? Like, were there any living structures on the second island?
Yeah, there were buildings. I mean, but you couldn't live there unless you're importing food and stuff from St. Thomas.
Okay.
But it was mostly to play. It was like I said, jet skis and snorkeling and island stuff. But he'd pepper that too. You're not going to buy an island and not use it. But he had them both.
Well, can I ask you
The one with the music room and stuff was on the. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to ask you on the Bannon thing in particular. Like, I know this is maybe a little bit of a hobby horse of mine, but like, don't you find it perplexing that people who are invested in this story are not more exercised about Bannon having this 15 or 16 hours of material that he's just been sitting on with like no explanation for over 6 years? And he was asked about it at this Turning Point conference, and he says, "Oh yeah, maybe next year, maybe sometime I'll release it in documentary form." So he's going to splice it up and edit it when he could just release the raw footage tonight. He's actually given that same excuse in years past when he's been asked about this on occasion, saying, "Oh yeah, in like 9 months, look out for some alleged documentary that never comes out." Like, I'm just like, why isn't this more?
Yeah, but
front of
I
mind for
honestly
people
don't think they
who are
know.
invested in the story?
Like, this story really well, and you didn't even know he had a second island. Like, they don't know about Bannon. Like, a lot of these people, like, their sole source of information is Twitter. And there's such an ether of stupid on Twitter. Like, there's such a dragnet of, repetitive talking points and stuff and Mario space type stuff that people don't really know the basics about Epstein. They're all like, oh, Acosta said this. I'm like, no, somebody said Acosta said this. The better evidence for him being Assad is, Ari Ben Menashe, and there's a whole bunch, there's other things, but they never bring it up. They're like, oh, because they're all repeating like the same video or whatever they saw. A lot of them are doing my 2019 map video, and then I was banned. And when I left, all the research died. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I shouldn't be doing this. The FBI should be doing what I did. And they're not. And they should be demanding what Bannon has. Like, anything they have, that whole monster video, like, at least they should have it, if the public doesn't have it. They should be able to see that. I mean, there's very few interviews of Epstein talking on the web.
There's none.
And here you have hours of it.
There's like a deposition video where he essentially pleads the fifth. And
here he asked how to spell Virginia. How do you spell Roberts? He said, "What an ass."
So I want something I'm curious about. In general, do you find Virginia Giuffre, from whom I think it's fair to say much of the sex trafficking theory stems, meaning she was the one who joined that litigation in December 2014 and made a filing alleging that she had been trafficked to a array of prominent individuals, some of whom she didn't name and just alluded to, but some of whom she did name, like Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Bill Richardson, George Mitchell, Marvin Minsky, etc. Do you find her to be a credible person? I know she's now deceased, obviously, but like when she was alive, did you find her to be a credible exponent of her theories, even though she had to retract one of the most spectacular ones that she made against Dershowitz, which, of course, I agree with. I don't agree with Dershowitz on Israel and other issues, but on this, I mean, I just don't see how anybody can really dispute that he was vindicated in terms of his rejection of Giuffre's claims. And you mentioned something about QAnon tards or whatever earlier. I mean, she was a Q, if you want to use that term to describe people who adhered to like QAnon theology, she was a QAnon tard. She hired, like, I didn't, there's so many webs to untangle to this, as I'm sure you know, but I didn't even realize until today that she hired this like proven scam artist, Eliza Blue, who Musk promoted a few years ago as his like resident expert on how to combat child sex trafficking on Twitter. And then it turned out that like during the time that she claimed that she was being sex trafficked and enslaved, she was appearing in rap videos like shaking her naked ass around. And then she just disappeared because she had zero credibility. But Virginia Giuffre, and it was like kind of tied in with QAnon stuff at the time as well, in terms of like the pervasiveness of sex trafficking, allegedly, of children.
I'm going to say something very unpopular.
Virginia Giuffre hired this woman to be the director of her scam NGO that she extracted $3 million from the British royal family to fund, and then it didn't do anything. It was just like a a little sort of nest egg for her and her law firms that made a killing on this whole story, namely David Boies and Boies Schiller. So I don't know, just address any of
Go
that.
ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. So this is going to sound like harsh and mean because, I hate to throw shade on someone who's recently deceased or anybody that, of that kind of situation getting serial raped. But a lot of these girls, first of all, you have to realize they're all abuse victims. Like, if we're going to assume this, she's telling the truth. And people have been abused, say some kooky things. And then there's a concerted effort to try to discredit these women, try to attach them to get them to say something goofy, get them to say something wrong so you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. But her allegations about Glenn Dubin, for example, I believe fully because it's too much detail and it corroborates with Glenn Dubin and a bunch of other incidences with a bunch of other people. And then he ended up marrying Epstein's girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. He isn't some famous name like Bill Gates or something. There's no reason a 14-year-old should know who that is at all. But what they did with the Dershowitz thing, I think was pushed a lot by her lawyer. Like, oh, you probably saw him too. And she wasn't even clear to all the people she got.
There are emails that I'm sure you saw from when she first made her spectacular claims, actually in 2011. This was pre-litigation. She got in touch with some tabloid journalist from the British Daily Mail who was emailing with her back and forth and saying, oh, yeah, we have this story that we paid you $160,000 for, where she provided that, notorious photo of Prince Andrew and did an interview. She got $160,000 in 2011 just for doing that. And then, of course, they wanted to keep the momentum going and turn it into a book proposal. So this journalist was helping her shop around for literary agents and so forth. And the journalist said to her, yeah, why not throw in Alan Dershowitz? We all suspect he's a pedo. And they wanted revenge on him, essentially, because he represented Epstein in the Florida case in 2007, 2008. And yeah, just throw him in. I mean, he's a prominent guy. I mean, why the hell not? And then that led to her falsely accusing him for nearly a decade of being sexually, basically raping her on 6 or 7 separate occasions, which she then had to retract. So, I mean, you can say, oh yeah, I mean, every time any questions are raised about the veracity of any of these people, we always get this profound lecture about how abuse victims or blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, Virginia Giuffre became a multi-millionaire based on her deciding to become a professional victim in relation to the story. She got, my estimate would be at minimum $15 million in settlements. I've heard estimates of $30 million. She purchased oceanfront estates in Australia. She purchased a lavish ranch property in Australia. She did live a life of luxury, I'm sorry to say, as a result of her extraction of millions and millions of dollars in relation to her role in the story. And she would have her lawyers negotiate all her media appearances, whether it's on these ridiculous Netflix documentaries or whatever, where she would never be asked a hard question about anything. And sure enough, when it came time to actually adjudicate her claims in a properly adversarial setting, meaning the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, when she could have been cross-examined for once, she wasn't even called as a witness. And so I'm not that interested in these emotionally manipulative lectures about how we have to be so sensitive to all these purported victims.
No, I agree with you. You need to check the veracity of everything. But I just want Ryan to explain this because I think Ryan.
Someone is an abuse victim. They're not, and they're like a high school dropout, and they're surrounded by lawyers who are going to take her to the cleaners. And yeah, she hired idiots. She spent a bunch of money on dumb shit. People used her. As soon as if you get somebody who's not that educated, not that bright, and got people surrounding them, they're going to pick them clean. And she got used there too. Her husband gambled away a bunch of her money and stuff. She was something going on so bad that he ended up with all the kids. That's her. I don't want to get into that, but it's just they sound exactly like a high school dropout would sound.
But just on this, Michael, because I feel like you're making a lot of points and Ryan's not addressing them.
And she definitely.
So, because Ryan,
she definitely lived with them.
So Ryan,
Go
just a
ahead.
similar question, because you've made the point that in your view, she was abused through the Epstein network, but it was Glenn Dubin. But in terms of Virginia Giuffre and Dershowitz, I know you don't believe that's credible as well. If you want to explain that,
I
but then
never
you do,
did. I never.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
you did. I know,
But
I know. I've been in debates with many
Dershowitz
times.
changed his story 3 times with his saying he kept his underwear on, and then it was just a back and shoulder rub, and then he changed location. So I never got a massage in Florida.
Dershowitz never changed his story that he
Yeah, he did.
never had. No, not in terms of him claiming that he never had sex with Virginia Giuffre and never met her. He maintained that the whole way through. I mean, maybe he like adjusted some details about when and where he received a certain massage or something. But in terms of his dealings with Giuffre, he never changed his story.
No, in terms of Giuffre, he didn't. I'm talking about kept his underwear on stuff. You're getting a massage from Epstein girls on Les Wexner properties. It's probably sketchy. And I might be biased because I personally fucking hate the guy for his views on Israel and everything else, but
well, that's the thing.
He fits the type.
Can't compartmentalize their hatred for Dershowitz on other issues.
No, but Michael,
Sure can.
I think what's happening is you're conflating a lot of things, and I think the audience is missing out here. But because I know the story, I know Ryan's position. So let's be clear on this, and I want Ryan to confirm your point or just add to it. Ryan's position, from what I understand, is Virginia Giuffre was abused through the Epstein network, but it was by Glenn Dubin. Separate to that, he thinks it's unlikely she was abused by Dershowitz. But separate to that, Ryan holds the position that Dershowitz, with other Epstein victims, may have partaken in certain sexual behavior because a lot of his stories don't match up when he's making excuses through the Wexler, Les Wexner, and various other things. Is that right, Ryan? If not, just add to it or correct what I said.
Yeah, I think what happened is when she started suing people, her lawyers and stuff started saying, just keep adding names and getting more money. And they didn't have evidence for some of this. And look, girls will lie, or if they get browbeat enough, they'll go, yeah, I mean, maybe that happened too. And that was stupid.
Ryan,
but there's Epstein victims that will said to me stuff like, I saw him turn into a lizard. I'm like, who put that idea in your head? Because if you say that in public, that you think somebody like transformed into an actual monster, no one is ever going to believe anything else you say.
Yeah, I posted a clip. This woman, Juliette Bryant, who I assumed, I had seen that she'd been on some of these fringe podcasts or whatever. I assumed she was kind of a peripheral accuser because there are so many people who glommed onto this thing for money. But it turns out she was actually one of the named plaintiffs who sued Epstein's estate in the Virgin Islands, which led to the creation of this victims' compensation fund that people came out of the woodwork to get money from and didn't have to be cross-examined. It was a confidential mediation where they didn't have to be publicized at all, and it was non-adversarial. Juliette Bryant was one of the people who actually caused that to come about, and she's on InfoWars claiming that she saw Epstein transform into a reptilian creature before her eyes and then was abducted by UFOs.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who make crazy claims like this who are prominent.
And obviously that didn't happen. So who put that idea in her head?
Sarah Ransom claimed that she had sex tapes from Epstein's properties showing Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Trump, Richard Branson, and others, Prince Andrew, having illicit sex with minors. And then she admitted she made
none of that. That was all QAnon stuff.
Well, but so why are so many of these so-called Epstein victims falling in with QAnon? I mean, how does that not reflect on their credibility?
They're like, it does.
Last point.
Well, I know.
Last point.
Okay.
If you're acknowledging that Giuffre repeatedly lied and made up stuff that she had no evidence for, whether it was at the behest of her lawyers or not, how could she, in any universe, be seen as a credible person?
Because what they did is they took a real story and made exaggerations to it, which they had a very large monetary incentive to do. And a very weak person that would just go, yeah, F them all. But when a story is corroborated by other evidence, then it's believable. And in some of her case, that was. Now, when Sarah Ransom came out and said that stuff, I said right away, that's not true. When she said that about Dershowitz, I said, that's believable, but there's no evidence for that. And the same thing with Julie Bryant. I'm like, obviously, if you go on Alex Jones, you're already discredited. And then when you say lizard people, it's even worse. Well, who put that shit in her head? And she believes in numerology and stuff too. And I'm like, just be quiet. Like, if something did happen to you, which is possible, no one's going to believe it because of the other crazy stuff you say. But obviously, there's a huge incentive to try to get these girls to say stupid shit so that they won't be credible. And a bunch of like uneducated women, it's pretty easy to manipulate them. That's why they were in the situation they're in the first place. But Epstein and Maxwell shouldn't even know a bunch of teenagers at all. I don't hang out with a bunch of kids, like they shouldn't even be on the same property. They shouldn't know each other at all. Like, what are you doing with these young girls?
Bryant, Ransom, and this other woman whose name is now escaping me, but she was just on Democracy Now! Today. And of course,
what's the Katie? What's her face? Retracted from Trump too.
She works for another.
I never believed her either.
I'm just gonna get her name real quick. You probably are familiar with her. It's like Tessa or something like that.
I don't know a Tessa.
Let's see. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, I have it. It's Teresa Helm. So Teresa Helm, Sarah Ransom, and Juliet Bryant, prominent accusers featured in like all the main documentaries and so forth. Literally, one of them was on the media today talking about how she was this Epstein quote-unquote survivor. These people say that they were in their 20s when they were supposedly groomed and trafficked by Epstein. So we're not even talking about children or minors here. We're talking about adult women. And a lot of the people who received settlements were adult women at the time that they allege that they were trafficked or groomed or whatever by Epstein, because the terms of the settlements that were negotiated with the Epstein Compensation Fund, with JP Morgan, with Deutsche Bank, allowed for people who were adults to receive settlements if they could claim, again, under a non-adversarial setting where their claims would not really be meaningfully scrutinized, that they were, vaguely coerced or compelled or deceived into engaging in some kind of sexual act in relation to Epstein or any alleged Epstein associate. So in a lot of instances here, and I think this is not well appreciated, we're talking actually about of-age adults who then get conflated with like a child sex trafficking ring, which is not even what the claim is in many instances.
Well, you had both. And like you have those three women. This is out of like 400 people. And I believe Julia Bryant never claimed to have been farmed out to anybody other than Epstein.
Right. And she claimed that she was in her 20s when it happened.
Yeah, and still got the money.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, like is that well understood in the popular narrative around Epstein? Not
but Michael, you're missing Ryan's point though. Ryan's saying there were minors, because you're trying to just fixate on the point that those three aren't minors. But Ryan said
it's kind of cherry picking. Like, well, this one was 20. Like, yeah, and there were 12-year-olds too. I mean, Jean-Luc Brunel had a whole den of them. Like, they were trafficking people back and forth. And that 2008 lawsuit should have never ever happened. Like with the sweetheart deal. Like, how could you possibly give immunity to anybody who ever worked for Epstein in any capacity? All got immunity. Like, how is that possible? Well, and he wasn't even there. He was in Israel.
The DOJ reneged.
He was in it. Yeah, they kept all his cohorts safe all the way until 2019.
Maxwell got prosecuted. I mean, that should have immunized by the letter of the law in terms of what was negotiated.
Yeah, 12 years later.
That should have immunized Epstein and Maxwell from any subsequent federal prosecution. But the DOJ, in the middle of a Me Too hysteria, decided that they were just going to renege completely on the non-prosecution agreement and show that the DOJ cannot be relied upon to even adhere to the terms that it negotiates. So I don't know. It clearly did not protect anyone.
It did. It protected them all until they got Maxwell, and that's they had a rule change in New York, so they were able to get her, and they got Burnell arrested for. It was separate actually. He had his own crap going on in France, and that never had a trial because he died in prison. But Maxwell is going to try and argue in her appeal that, hey, I should be part of the sweetheart deal. God damn it, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on.
Well, yeah, Yeah, man, that strikes me as like a facially valid argument, in addition to other arguments that her appellate attorneys are making, which is that the trial was fatally flawed. I mean, there was one juror who lied on the juror questionnaire, which specifically asked jurors, were you sexually abused as a child? Because the idea was that the defense wanted to filter out those prospective jurors because they would be biased in favor of the prosecution. There was a juror who lied on the form, claimed that he said that he was not sexually abused, and then in like a dramatic climactic moment inside the jury's deliberation room announced to the fellow jurors that he had in fact been sexually abused, and he was therefore going to use his experience to encourage the jurors to overlook what many of them believed to be holes in the stories of the purported victims and convict Maxwell. If that's not fertile ground for an appeal, I don't know what would be. And there are other deficiencies in that trial as well that are ridiculous, including the fact that the supposed victims were allowed to testify pseudonymously in a criminal trial, which is like a huge violation of Sixth Amendment rights, I think. And even there's like evidentiary deficiencies. One of the there were only 4 victims purportedly in that trial. One of them was an admitted schizophrenic who said that she heard voices telling her that her children were going to be abducted by sex traffickers, and yet the jury was apparently convinced beyond a reasonable doubt to believe that that person's recollections from 25 years prior were credible enough to render a criminal conviction and put somebody in jail for 20 years. There was another woman that the government mustered who, again, was an of-age adult at the time that she met, that there were purported like sexual encounters with Epstein. And like I mentioned before, like Virginia Giuffre, from whom this whole thing so kind of ineluctably floated in the first place, was not even called as a witness because she would have been shredded upon cross-examination and the whole edifice would have collapsed. So I think there are more than ample grounds for an appeal by Maxwell. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Ryan.
I missed half of that. I was on the phone. I got one kid puking, so I got to watch the 4-year-old because my wife's got to take him to the hospital. So we'll just do this another day. Sorry, it's Saturday here, Korea. No school. Got to watch the little ones.
Okay.
But to the point about Bannon, like that,
you should prioritize the vomiting 4-year-old, I think.
7-year-old. I'm watching the 4-year-old. So yeah. Oh well. It's often on these spaces on the weekend. I only come in a few minutes and leave. So it's children first. See you guys.
Appreciate you coming on, Ryan. Anyway.
Yep. I'll be on the Daryl Cooper this week. We're gonna go over the whole detail, white collar crime, and all that stuff.
Well, Ryan, actually, I can't let you go until you answer this one question, though. There's been a lot of drama about you on X. Whitney Webb called you out. What's your thoughts?
Whitney Webb is a plagiarist. She stole my 9/11 work and Epstein work, so she can kiss my ass.
Well, she's denying it. She wrote a long thread. I don't know if you've seen it.
Okay, well, then I'll just.
She said that you basically have not been able to provide any evidence and not responded to anything with proof.
No one's asked me. Like everybody knew, she would watch. She would watch me go on Sean Atwood and sit there and tweet all my talking points as I was saying them on his show, knowing I'm not allowed on Twitter or any other social media and I can't do anything about it. And her book is straight up fucking paragraphs from my videos. So I'll show that in a few days. I'll sit when I have nothing else to do. I'll sit down and download it and go over it because people already did this for me. They're like, she's stealing your shit. I didn't even look at it.
If you can prove plagiarism, why don't you sue her?
For what? She don't have any money. But yeah, why not?
A lot of people seem to have bought that book.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, maybe I should. I can easily prove it. She stole all my 9/11 shit too. Like that was fucking clear. She just went through and grabbed all the stuff from Empire and Mass and wrote it down. I mean, and that's what she did. She would just sit there and watch my videos and then write it down. That's all she did. And then what happened with Atwood is YouTube gave him a strike and removed all those videos. So all that stuff that was on there that I could go and point to that she stole is no longer up because YouTube removed it.
So this is what she said, Ryan. Ryan, this is what she said, just so when you prepare. She said, I again challenge Ryan and now Daryl Cooper to provide any evidence that I took anything from Ryan without citation.
Easy.
I've
All right,
covered
fucking
numerous
easy.
aspects of the Epstein case and a litany of other topics, and Ryan has never even covered once. And to act like all of my hard work somehow is without any evidence and
Her
fucking
whole
laptop.
thing is 9/11 and Epstein, which she stole from me. She's not good on anything else.
She's saying she's also spoke about Palantir, something you don't know anything about.
I don't talk about Palantir that much, but no one cares about her Palantir work. Like she's just ripping off someone else, probably. Like that girl's a serial plagiarist. Other people were like, "Oh yeah, she stole such and such from me too." I'm like, "Did she?" She interviewed people, and then like didn't publish it, and then took everything they said and put it out as her own.
She
Like that's the
also
kind of
said
shit she was doing. And she went around. She went around behind my back, calling me a white supremacist and shit. She did Tim Dillon and stuff. People gave me screenshots of it, where she's calling me a Nazi and stuff.
So Ryan,
Like
she's
fuck that
also
bitch.
claiming, just so you're aware, that one, you have a mutual friend with her, and you told that friend that you actually know that she didn't take your work, but you're only saying it because you're angry that you got banned.
Oh, that's absolute shit. I don't have any friends with her. And I've always maintained that she fucking stole my shit because I didn't even know who she was. Everyone else came to me saying, this girl is stealing all your stuff. I said, well, what can I do? I'm banned on everything.
Ryan,
whatever.
If I could prove that my work had been plagiarized by someone and then they made profit based on their use of the work that they plagiarized for me, I would take legal action. I mean, especially given that book that she published seems to have been pretty popular. I'm constantly told that I need to be educated and sit and read it. I've read some of it. It's
that book is just sitting there grifting off like whole paragraphs from my my videos.
So then why don't
I can prove that.
I don't understand. Why don't you sue her?
Because it takes money to sue people, which I don't have.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't understand. Like, I can't even I'm not even allowed to use PayPal. Like, I have no money. And because people steal my shit all the time. It's like, it's not monetizable. I didn't even have a Twitter till 2023 when Elon let me back on. And I'm still not allowed on anything else. Like, I'm blanket banned as bad as Andrew Tate. I can't use shit. Rumble and newly Twitter. And everyone knew that. And they're like, here's a guy that knows a lot of stuff, and we can just take it because there's nothing he can do. I wasn't even noticeable back then.
That's actually crazy. Me and my friends have been chatting it up about you for a long time, but I didn't even get to seeing you on anywhere until like 2024, roughly.
Yeah, probably because I was banned on everything. When she first did it, I said, well, maybe she just saw the same sources as me or something. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Then I saw the 9/11 stuff. I'm like, okay, this is fucking verbatim what I put in, and she stole it all. So anyway, I gotta go.
Had some video, you had some evidence of, like, I remember you telling me this in 2023 that you had something where you mentioned about the tower being hit, and then it was a
Well, it's like she said, oh, I think they were at Doric Tower the day before or whatever. She didn't know that the camera would be rewound 14 hours because that's not in my film, but it is in the document, which you would know if you'd actually read the document, which she didn't. She just sat there and wrote down every stuff in the video. Whatever. I got to bounce.
Appreciate you coming on, Ryan, and we'll get you in with Tracey some other time because I think he's got some fair questions and probably you're one of the few people who can answer it. But Michael, I mean, just on that, just to be clear on Ryan's position, because it is a bit different to yours. His position is that Virginia Giuffre was abused, but by Glenn Dubin. So he was abused by the Epstein network. His other position is that obviously Virginia Giuffre wasn't abused by Dershowitz, but then Dershowitz was part of the Epstein network and did get massages by women linked to Epstein through Les Wexner. So just so you understand his position.
Right. But I mean, so Dershowitz claims that the massage that he got was totally non-sexualized. It was by a woman in her 40s or 50s, I think he claims. And I know people like to laugh about Dershowitz because they might not like him for other reasons, but I mean, I just don't see how it's contestable that every claim that he's made in terms of the sexual allegations against him for a decade have been vindicated. Otherwise, why would his arch nemesis, David Boies, who was representing Giuffre, agree to the humiliating settlement where they admitted that they falsely accused him for 8 years? In terms of the Glenn Dubin thing, look, I mean, there are many wrinkles to this. I admit I haven't investigated that claim as in great depth, but it doesn't necessarily conflict with my position, which is that if we're going to use Giuffre as basically the narrative sort of progenitor of this whole theory of a international sex trafficking pedophile ring, and she has such deficiencies, like fatal deficiencies in her credibility, as even a guy like Ryan, who has chronicled this more closely than most people, as even he acknowledged. That's a huge, I think, irresolvable flaw in like the factual predicate for a lot of what people claim to believe about this. And I just don't think it's acknowledged enough.
So that, and this is why I wanted you to have that conversation with my Ryan. I was trying to direct it back into the main points, but I think everyone got sidetracked on the Steve Bannon thing, which I think is important point, but irrelevant in terms of your conversation with Ryan. Because Ryan's argument about Epstein's blackmail ring, which you don't believe in or have question marks about, isn't contingent on just Virginia Giuffre. That's the point. His argument for Virginia Giuffre is just that was his name, Glenn Dubin. So that's the point on that. So his argument is, as you heard, that bit he was able to express on the space, which is yes, she was part of the Epstein network. In terms of she was abused through the Epstein network, Glenn Dubin did take advantage of her. But then what happened is, because she's not very smart and because of her upbringing or whatever, the lawyers basically or various other people got to her head and told her to exaggerate about other people. So that's his position on that. So he's not saying that. So I guess you need to look into the Glenn Dubin one and see if there's kind of veracity in that. Maybe you've got certain question marks about that. If you could debunk that, then you've basically you've removed her completely from the equation, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'll look more into the Glenn Dubin angle. I mean, I'm aware of it. I mean, I think I don't want to say more than I kind of concretely know, but like there might be issues around that as well. But I'll look more into it. I just think that's sort of ancillary, though, to sort of the beating heart of why it is that people are so animated about this issue, right? I mean, they think that there's a large-scale pedophilic sex trafficking ring that has been covered up, and now Trump is participating in covering up, and it's enforced by
Yeah, but
Blackmail.
that's Ryan's. But
Yeah.
Ryan's position isn't that. I mean, I don't know about Ryan's position about Trump. We'll have to see what he says about that. But in terms of it being a sex trafficking ring used for blackmail, that is his position. And that's why I wanted you guys to get into the details of that. And I was trying to
Okay,
direct
I
it a
mean,
bit.
again, like I'm not trying to claim I'm like an encyclopedic authority on every little element of this. So I would have to look more into the Glenn Dubin component.
Yeah, of course. And that's not his only one. Remember, he did mention to you, he said there was 400. He said there was 400 victims as an example. So I
Well,
guess
there's 400 claim victims. I mean, that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
that's the issue. I mean,
No, no,
again,
and that's the point.
yeah.
So in your conversation with him, you would, if I was you, I would have asked him like, okay, you're saying there's 400. Give me one child that you think is the most strongest, where there's the most strongest
Yeah,
evidence,
I'll
and
give
then
you
maybe
one.
one.
I'll give you one. There's one that I'm willing to admit. I mean, the Epstein basically conceded that there was a 14-year-old who appeared to be maybe older because she in concert with Virginia Giuffre, who like essentially the claim ended up being that Virginia Giuffre trafficked girls herself. She was never prosecuted for that, obviously, but like she was 18 at a certain point when she was in the Epstein network. I'm not disputing that. And she was like recruiting girls in her age cohort, some of whom were underage. And there was a 14-year-old who was basically present for a sexualized massage. It's not clear if she participated in this massage. I'd have to go check that. But even if like Epstein got a sexual massage with an of-age person and there was a 14-year-old in the room, like there's a way to make that into a crime. So I'm not doubting that. And then of course, Virginia Giuffre advised this then 14-year-old to lie about her age so she could continue coming to the Palm Beach mansion and getting paid, $200 or $300 at a time to get, to do whatever it is they did. So like that one is acknowledged, I think. I mean, I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that there are like discrete instances. Like Epstein clearly could have been charged. Like when he was indicted in 2019 and imprisoned, I don't have very much doubt that the government could have figured out a way to convict him. I mean, they figured out a way to convict Maxwell on much more tenuous bases. So I'm not even doubting that. So I mean, there are concessions that I'm willing to make. Again, it really depends on the evidence to me. And I think the evidence like establishes the probably more or less the thing about the 14-year-old who claimed that she was encouraged by Virginia Giuffre to lie about her age and say she was 18 so she could come to the Palm Beach mansion. The 14-year-old lying about her age does not absolve adults of criminal culpability if they engage in a sexual interaction with the 14-year-old. And yeah, to me, I try to stay as wedded as possible to the evidence.
Yeah, of course, and that's the best way to be. But in terms of, but I do think Ryan does provide substantive evidence. I've obviously relayed as much as I know of his position, but obviously he's the best person to relay his position. I don't try and claim to be like expert on something I'm not an expert on. So the only bits I know is just from Ryan and Ryan's videos, to be honest. But in terms of Michael, another point or important point is in terms of Ryan's position is that not only was Epstein partaking in a sexual blackmail operation that included children and adults, but also in addition to that, he was doing it for Israel as well. So that's his another important component of Ryan's position.
Okay, so obviously it would be better if Ryan were here and I can ask
for
him
intelligence.
But does Ryan say that this blackmail network included some of like the marquee figures that informed why it is that this became such a big story that people got invested in emotionally? Like, does he claim that the blackmail network includes Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz? I know that he conceded had no evidence.
Trump, he says, is not. He says Trump is not included in there.
So how about Bill Clinton or Bill Gates?
I believe he thinks Bill Gates was, but you're gonna have to. No, actually, I don't know about Bill Gates because I don't think that's on his list. I've got
because those are like the two biggest ones, probably. Other than Trump, who's sort of in a slightly different category. But if Bill Clinton and Bill Gates are not part of his theory, then like, what are we talking about? I mean, like, wouldn't that? Let's just assume that he would agree that Bill Clinton and Bill Gates are not in this not implicated by this purported blackmail network. Like, wouldn't that really undercut a lot of the fervor around the story? Or am I crazy?
No, I don't think so. Because there's other key individuals in his list that are in there. For example, I believe Jared Kushner's father's on the list, but not in terms of partaking in it, but somehow being. Trying to remember from the top of my head because I only looked at this like a couple of years ago. Jared Kushner's father, I believe, was on the list or connected to Maxwell. Who else is on there? So there is key people on there or influential people on there, which again you'll have to speak to Ryan about who.
Charles Kushner is the current ambassador to France. Trump pardoned him and appointed him in this term as ambassador to France. So if there's somebody who's like accused of pedophilia serving in the ambassadorship to France, somebody should get on that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. But I know he doesn't think Trump is. He does believe Trump may have partaken in certain types of behaviors, but in a different network, not the kind of Epstein network.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my theory on Trump. I mean, I think that as the Wall Street Journal story yesterday demonstrated, it has always stood to reason that there could be materials that are in the possession of the DOJ that would prove politically embarrassing to Trump. Like, it's politically embarrassing to Trump for him to have sent Epstein a birthday, like a tongue-in-cheek birthday greeting in 2003, right? I mean, I'm assuming that the Wall Street Journal is not fabricating material that they claim to have. I don't think that's plausible.
I don't think Trump would be suing him so aggressively if he could get exposed through discovery and through trial. I think they're going to settle and it'll be settled in Trump's favor.
So you think the Wall Street Journal is going to admit that they fabricated the letter?
I think there's going to be a settlement, personally. And obviously, my conspiracy theory is, you might not like this because you're not, and again, this is speculation. There's no evidence for it, Mike, in case you're like, where's the basis? But okay. I believe that this is a conspiracy, but I do believe it was done in collusion. It makes no sense that Rupert Murdoch, a chief Zionist, would basically go after Trump in the manner that he did. Now, obviously, Trump makes the claim that he spoke
Rupert Murdoch is like 95 years old. Who even knows if he knows where he is?
So he said, no, it's like Trump said that he spoke to Rupert Murdoch, isn't it, in his tweet, right?
Yeah, but
So Trump is not. So no, you can't say
Murdoch is not
nobody.
involved in the
No, but
day-to-day
you
editorial
can't say
operations of the Wall
but you
Street
can't say
Journal.
nobody knows where he is when Trump is telling you where he is. He's literally saying, I jumped on a call with him and told him, do not release this, and he promised me that he wouldn't. Clearly, Trump knows where he is. He's flipping on the phone with him. So I disagree with you on that regard.
So Trump called up Rupert Murdoch, who's like 95 years old, or what's his exact age? It's in that vicinity. Rupert Murdoch is 94 years old. Excuse me. And he complains to Rupert Murdoch. Obviously, Rupert takes his call because he knows Trump. I mean, Rupert was in the White House not too long ago. I saw Rupert at the Republican convention last year. So he's still active. But Rupert doesn't have day-to-day control over the editorial operations of the news division of the Wall Street Journal.
Well,
so, I mean,
yeah, that's
ridiculous.
That's going to be the argument, and hence, no. So 1 second, let me explain my point. My point isn't just wholly based on Rupert Murdoch, bro. My point is based on the entirety of not just Rupert Murdoch, because look, when you look at the letter, it looks completely fake, in my view. And so therefore, what's the reason to fabricate it? It doesn't benefit the Wall Street Journal because everybody thinks it's fake. Now Trump's suing them. So in your view, which I think is ridiculous, is Trump is suing them for a letter that he will then be exposed for, and then that will completely expose him. I just think that would be, if that's the case, then Trump is the most stupidest person we know, because essentially he's gone down a road which completely exposes him and his links to Epstein.
But Trump has done this a million times. He's always weaponized like litigation to claim that stuff is fake. I mean, people forget, but there was like a notorious episode in the 2016 campaign around Trump University. Remember that? It was this like bogus for-profit university that he ran where people could like sign up in like a pyramid scheme, and they were supposed to be getting like real estate advice. He go look at clips at the time. He adamantly denied that he would ever settle on it was a perfect program, etc. Then he wins the 2016 election. He settles and pays off people who claim that they were wronged by that for-profit university. And there are a million other examples of
that's not the
he
same
even tried
thing.
to claim that the
No, but let me just deal with this one because you're
fake.
scattergunning. So the first one is completely different situation. So in the first scenario, you basically have it where he goes into litigation with Trump University. He claims he's not going to settle. Then he becomes president. The situation changes. He's probably advised that it's better to settle because of presidency and various other things, and therefore he settles. In this scenario, what you've got is his entire reputation and legacy on the line. People basically think he's a rapist and part of the Epstein list. Now, he's refused to release them, but still, some of his base still believe that actually, no, you know what? He's not part of it. He's not involved with Epstein whatsoever. This is a Democrat hoax. Some of them do still believe that. Actually, probably a large part of them believe that. But on X, it's mixed bag. Probably outside of X, it's a larger bag. If he goes through disclosure, if he goes and sues the Wall Street Journal, and as what you think that the letter's real, and therefore this gets then exposed as real through discovery and through various other things, that will destroy his reputation forever. There's no coming back from that, and it impacts him significantly.
I don't agree with that. I mean, I think if he just acknowledged that it was real, like who cares? I mean, they're assigning so much significance to this dopey letter. Epstein wasn't even accused of the state level prostitution offenses in 2003. We already know that Trump was a social associate of Epstein. There's plenty of photos and videos of them partying together and, hanging around with models together and whatnot. We have flight logs of them flying on planes together. So like, it's not a secret that they had this relationship. I just think that Trump, is so obstinate now to like deny, which he's done in the past, that he's making it a bigger issue than it needs to be. Like, I mean, let's just assume that it's real, right? So what? Like, what would it prove? That Trump sent this like goofy letter for a birthday gift? That's like sort of a jokey little thing that he was enlisted to do.
Well, I don't think so. So let's go with your theory. And so, by the way, I've demonstrated why I think there's a problem with what he's done, and therefore I do think everything's happening in collusion. That being said, let's go with your theory that let's say the letter's real. So, in terms of the last sentence, I think that's where there is certain problems just from a kind of damage control perspective.
Well,
Like
yeah,
if
I
I
agree with
was,
that.
you agree? Yeah,
I
okay.
agree. It's a political problem for him because any
No, it's
snippet of
not. It's a
information.
political problem. We both agree with that. But I'm just saying the last sentence when he says, "And may every day be another wonderful secret." So then the question marks become like, What is this wonderful secret?
I mean, that's
What?
funny. He should just go with the humor of it. I think if I were advising
I don't
him,
think
that's
that.
what
I
I
don't
would
think.
say.
But this is the problem. Like,
And you just laughed.
my no, I laugh because I find it hilarious. No, look, I'm laugh because I'm not a Trump supporter, right? When you have to, the thing is, both of us are quite independent in this
Everybody
regard.
who saw that laughed when they read the wonderful secret line. Go with the humorous angle. That's
I
what
don't
I
think so.
advise.
Some people within MAGA were concerned that maybe this means something a lot
Well, I
more.
laughed.
Well, because we're independent and we see kind of Trump as a kind of
Okay,
like
here's
a.
another aspect to this. Okay, so
My
I've
point
written
is,
for the Wall
no, no,
Street
but
Journal
let
before.
me just make my point
Yeah.
on this.
Okay.
So in terms of that, you have to remember, just put it in the eyes of his base. His base is vehemently being people who've been speaking out against the Epstein file. They're the dissident right. They're against the deep state and various other things. And then you have Trump basically saying that he's got secrets with Epstein. It does have, if there is a significant amount of impact on his credibility and impact on, and there will does bring forth a number of question marks in that regard. But go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so another aspect of it is that I've written for the Wall Street Journal before. I've actually written for the opinion section, which is
Oh
different
my
from the news
God,
division.
Zayo!
Yeah, right. So I've written for the opinion section, which is different from the news division, but even the opinion section, the standards are pretty rigorous. In the news division, it's different. And it's not plausible to me that the Wall Street Journal is a hugely profitable property. It's actually, when there's been downtimes in the media industry and publications were losing subscribers and becoming unprofitable, the Wall Street Journal is like always the one exception because it has more of a steady audience in terms of people who subscribe for the financial side, but they also have the news reporting, politics reporting, the opinion section, whatever. It's just not plausible to me that all the lawyers, all the editors, all the corporate senior leadership that would have been involved in publishing a story like that would have just signed off on a fabrication. Like, they go through multiple layers of intensive authentication. Now, is it impossible that's a fabrication? No, it's not impossible. People point to, like, in 2004, there was this very famous episode where, like, CBS News and Dan Rather reported on George W. Bush's National Guard records, and it turned out to be probably a fabrication. That's still disputed, actually. But, it's not unheard of that something like that could happen. But I just don't find it credible that the Wall Street Journal, of all publications, would be so unscrupulous that it would still, right now, have on its front page this story without having done the most intensive possible authentication.
Yeah, I
And
disagree
so
with that.
that's where I lean toward. Like, I know people like say, "Oh, we can't believe them." Like, anything that's bad about Trump that gets reported, we can't believe because the media are a lot. That's a little bit of an oversimplification to me. I think people should have a critical eye toward the media. But if your immediate instinct is always just to be like a nihilist and just say, "Oh, it must be all fake," I just think that's not the right way to approach it.
No, no. So I'm not just listen. So because you're trying to diminish the argument about why it's fake. So I think I provided a strong basis of why I think it's fake. If it's real, first of all, it sounds so gay. That's a separate point. It's like a gay love letter more than anything else. But let's put that aside. In terms of your argument now, what you're basically doing is providing a huge amount of credibility to the mainstream media when we know the mainstream media has partaken in a significant amount of propaganda. For example, you will remember the Hunter Biden laptop story, but not just that. There's many such issues that have arisen even in the last 2 years when they've propagandized for the Zionist regime or for Israel, or in various other stories they've done this. And so I just disagree with you because you're giving the mainstream media, or in this case, one component of the mainstream media, which is the Wall Street Journal, so much credibility when in reality we would see that the when you look at the actions of the mainstream media, especially when we've had alternative media to expose them, they've been extremely problematic.
But
Now
the
I do
Wall
think
Street
this,
Journal
I do
didn't
think the
perpetrate the
I
Hunter
do think
Biden laptop thing. I mean, you
no,
got
I'm
to be
not.
a little bit more discriminating in terms
No,
of
no,
how you're.
listen, I'm not talking about, listen, I'm talking generally about the mainstream media
But
because now
let's specifically
so
talk
your
about the Wall
argument
Street
is the
Journal.
Wall Street Journal has specific editorial policies that no other newspaper or magazine has, and it's basically eons above everyone else. Now, can you find proof or provide evidence of why their standards are significantly higher than anyone else's
Yeah, but
standards,
I don't.
other than your
There was
personal
never
anecdotal
even. I
experience?
don't recall there ever being an allegation that the Wall Street Journal participated in the temporary suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop issue.
No, that was an
Um,
example of the mainstream media
in
doing it.
fact, in fact, in fact, Well, no, because the New York Post is the one that published that. That's also owned by News Corp and Rupert Murdoch, in addition to the Wall Street Journal. So, like, a lot of this doesn't add up. Let me just throw out here. Here's another thing to maybe consider. So, you probably have seen this now famous quote from Trump on record in a New York Magazine article in 2002. So 1 year before he would have sent this letter to Epstein, right, for his birthday. And here's the quote. This is a profile on Epstein for which Trump was quoted in New York Magazine. Quote, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Do you see that as inconsistent with the little sort of like jokey dialogue that appeared in the Epstein birthday anthology? Like, even if Trump didn't write it, he could have dictated it to someone. It could have been written, like, I don't know, on his behalf by someone, and he signed it. However exactly it came about, like, I just don't see it as that, like, shockingly incongruous with what, like, Trump would have been probably saying about Epstein at the time, who he was a long-term friend with. They partied together with young models. He probably, like, met Melania through a similar circle. They traveled on the jets with each other, etc. They were in the same, like, in Palm Beach, in Manhattan, in, like, these socialite sort of worlds.
Yeah.
They're
So
like playboys.
in terms of both,
like, would it be crazy if they had, like, an inside joke together where they're talking about wonderful secrets? I just don't find it that implausible.
So I would say the style is significantly different. That's the first thing. The second thing is, but by the way, Epstein and Trump having a conversation, I don't find hard to believe. I do believe that they had a friendship and these type of things. That's not the issue. It's just the way the letter was written. But less more so than that, it's just the timing of it and the fact that it's going to go to court and the fact that there's going to be disclosure. I have question marks about it. I think there's going to be a settlement. Let's see if I'm right. I think there's going to be a settlement, Michael. I think there's going to be a settlement, but let's see if I'm right. But let me just go to your Wall Street Journal claim, right? Because obviously you've put them as the kind of apex of all mainstream media editorials. They're the best, and no one else is even on their level. So I just typed in straight away Wall Street Journal, but something that I looked into already, obviously, is the Hamas rape claims, and they published that, which is fake news and propaganda. The rape of the Israeli women. So that's just an example of the Wall Street Journal posting or publishing fake propaganda based on zero evidence, atrocity propaganda based on a Zionist perspective. So that's just like one example of them. You're then meeting your amazing editorial, untouchable editorial standards, but somehow publishing fake news.
Okay, well, I mean, send me that particular article, and I'll look at it. I mean, look, I mean, it's not that they're beyond criticism. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I just don't find it credible that a story of this magnitude, that people knew was coming for several days, would be based on, like, a totally fabricated document.
Sorry, can I chime in? Can I chime in real quick?
It could be. I mean, look, listen, the document could be real. If it is real, then I would say it's the biggest blunder by Trump in history. Because when he goes through, as you know, but if he left it, and I think the vast majority of people just didn't believe it was real. Even Elon Musk posted, "Oh, it doesn't look real."
Well, Trump has been going crazy for the past week or two over this Epstein stuff. That's why he was saying, I mean, and now it makes much more sense because the Wall Street Journal came to the White House with this several days ago.
Yeah, it was a few days ago.
And Trump was posting on Truth Social, Epstein is a hoax. It's the same as the Russia hoax. It's the same as Hunter Biden's laptop, because he was priming people to not believe any embarrassing materials that might come up.
I agree with that. But I agree with that specific point. But just coming back to the love letter between him and Epstein. So point A is it could be real, and if you look at their relationship, it would be possible that it's real. Why I don't think it's real, as I keep reiterating, is that basically when this goes to trial and this goes to disclosure, this will completely destroy his credibility. Now, I guess we're going to find out who's right, generally speaking, because I think there'll be a settlement. You think this is going to go to trial, and then maybe we'll find out the truth of it. So I guess we're going to...
Well, I don't know if it's going to go to trial. I mean, that's hard to predict. I'm just saying that.
No, but one second.
It's plausible that it's a fabricated document.
But 1 second. That just goes against your point, because if it really is Trump, if Trump really wrote it, why would the Wall Street Journal settle?
Well, because litigation costs a lot of money.
What, for a mainstream media newspaper?
Well, sure. I mean, but there are all kinds of considerations that go into why parties to a lawsuits eventually settle. They could settle, and the Wall Street Journal could concede no wrongdoing potentially. Um, uh, of course, if the president is suing you, that creates all kind of political problems, or access problems. Like, I mean, maybe the White House will bar Wall Street Journal reporters from attending press
Which will
briefings
happen.
or participating in the press
Which will
pool.
probably happen.
Yeah, I mean, they did it to the AP over a much less significant issue, which is over the Gulf of quote unquote Gulf of America. Still one of the dumbest things of the entire administration, I think. So there could be a whole host of other considerations that might go into them making some kind of settlement. I just don't believe that a settlement, even if it does arrive, would entail the Wall Street Journal admitting that they used a fabricated document, because that would obliterate their credibility for all time. So here are the two options. The Wall Street Journal's news division, for the first time, reported on something that was just a pure fabrication. To my knowledge, over the course of the Wall Street Journal's entire history, I know you mentioned the Hamas rapes thing or whatever. I have to look more in depth into that, but like that would even be a little bit of a different category, I think. But anyway, this would be like on another level in terms of them shredding their journalistic credibility. So either they've done that despite the multiple levels of lawyering or an editorial oversight and corporate oversight that goes into the decision to publish something like this, or it's real, and Trump is just trying to sort of orchestrate, as he typically does, a denial to tamp down on a political problem. And actually, there's a political upside to him because, whenever he can rally his troops against the supposed fake news, that's kind of like a unifying thing to do within his support base. So I don't know. I find that the latter to be a more plausible explanation than the theory that this was just a pure fabrication.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Crypto, jump in.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say a couple of things. You guys have a great discussion here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. First of all, I think no one's asking who told about this letter. I think it's Ghislaine Maxwell who said this letter was in existence because no one's seen it. And I bet she somehow got to the Wall Street Journal and told them about this. And it's never going to see the light of day because they'll have to release the other components of the Epstein, quote unquote, files or evidence that the FBI has. So if it goes to court, they have to release everything. And I don't think it's going to happen. Number two, I've been listening to Michael here for like the last hour and a half, but I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, was a high school graduate, didn't go to college. He became so quote a tax advisor. He had one bank account that had 4,000 transactions of over $1.2 billion going into it. Leon Black, who's a billionaire, gave $62.5 million to the Virgin Islands government so he can never be investigated for sex trafficking or any kind of thing that he dealt with Jeffrey Epstein. Why would someone do that? $62.5 million he gave to the Virgin Islands government. Then these girls, a lot of these girls who are um, abused, yeah, they're not going to be great witnesses. They've been their whole lives have been destroyed. So even if they got a $15 million or $30 million payoff, I don't think anyone would do that to give up their youth and innocence for that.
Is there anywhere I can volunteer to be sexually abused and get $30 million? Because I would honestly do that.
I think you're just being as someone who's known people who've been sexually abused. That's kind of disingenuous to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's intentionally a dismissive and kind of a joke.
But what I'm saying is this guy Jeffrey Epstein had 12 different phone numbers for Donald Trump to reach out to him. He's a known pedophile. And in that 2002 article that you mentioned, the New York Magazine, if you read the whole thing, which I'm sure you have, a lot of the rich Wall Street guys, we have no idea how this guy came up with his money. This guy made his money, Jeffrey Epstein, by sex trafficking
and
minors.
Others say they know how he made his money. So
no, they didn't. No, they said he came out of nowhere. This guy came out of nowhere with no education, with no background, and became a billionaire. And wealthy people were coming in. A lot of wealthy people.
I just
read
it last night. I'll give you the quote.
He had pictures of Bill Clinton, who has a picture of the president of who hung out with, in a blue dress, in his foyer, where dignitaries and foreign leaders and rich people came to his house in New York, the biggest house in New York City, in Manhattan, the largest property in Manhattan City, single home. And he had a picture of the president of the United States in a blue dress. Why would he do that? What kind of power does that guy have over the president of the United States? to have him in a blue dress. And Donald Trump, I
That was
mean,
a
he's on
painting. That was a paint. That was a
a
spoof
painting.
painting.
Yeah, it was a picture. That's what I meant. A painting. Yes, a painting of the president of the United States. He has a he has
It's a painting that some
Don.
college girl painted, and Epstein bought it
Okay, right, and you put the
at a
picture
gallery.
there where all these wealthy scientists, wealthy people, individuals come to your house, and you're painting of the president of the United States in a blue dress, meaning basically you're my bitch. That's basically what he's telling people, that the president of the United States
So
is my bitch.
what did Clinton do
So
for Epstein if he was his
what
bitch
did what
while he
what
was
did- what did what did
president?
he do? What did Jeffrey Epstein do for Bill Clinton? Is a story, is a question.
No, but
What did he?
If
And
Bill Clinton was Epstein's bitch when Clinton was president, what did Clinton do in terms of presidential action
he
to
may run an
placate
interference for him
Epstein?
to help him. He may. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know what he did.
Yeah,
All I know is
nothing that you can cite.
he didn't do anything. Right. So all these guys, these wealthy guys, Leon Black, just gave him
I mean, you
62
made the
million.
claim. Hold on. So that people throw out all these
Yeah,
claims, and then when you
mm-hmm.
narrow in on one of them, they
Yeah,
can't
go
give
ahead.
any evidence. You said that Clinton
What's
was
evidence?
Epstein's bitch because there was a spoof painting that Epstein bought from some college girl artist
Right.
of sort of ridiculing the Monica Lewinsky saga of Clinton in a blue dress, and that means that Clinton was
Right.
Epstein's bitch.
So why did
What was Clinton coerced into doing as a result of being Epstein's bitch while he was president? You can't give one example.
What do you mean? What do
Can
you
you
mean
find some?
coerced? What do you mean coerced to doing? He.
If I'm your bitch, can't you
Okay.
tell me to do stuff?
Yeah. Listen. What he did was he if you read that article too, he liked hanging out. He liked hanging out with. He opened doors for Jeffrey Epstein to meet and greet other foreign leaders and interact with other people. That's what Bill Clinton did for Jeffrey Epstein. And what Jeffrey Epstein did for Bill Clinton is he procured young women for him to have sex with, just like he
Okay, so what's
did
the
for
evidence of that?
the evidence. The evidence of that is, again, you said the interview that Steve Bannon has. How come you don't talk about the Michael Wolff interview that he had with
I
Jeffrey
did talk
Epstein for
about it.
over
I
10
mentioned that in the article
for
as
over 10
well.
hours, and he says Donald Trump was my best friend. Your best
Crypto DC,
friend.
I feel like you're not
I mentioned that
answering
in the
any of
article.
Tracy's questions. Like, why not answer? Like,
This is how it always goes, Solomon. This
What
is
what
how it
what
always goes.
so you're hanging out with a known pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein's a known pedophile.
Clinton
And
wasn't hanging.
no, I'm saying Donald Trump was hanging out with a known
Clinton
pedophile.
flew
can we
No,
on
no,
take a one
Epstein's
point
jet
crypto
in
DC?
2000.
But can we take one point at a time? You like scattergoing like
Okay,
loads
so
of
Clinton was
sure.
hanging out with a known
So can
pedophile.
we?
Epstein was not a known
Yeah.
pedophile in 2002 when there was a
Okay.
surge of media attention around Epstein because he provided his jet for Clinton to fly around to Africa and go on a trip to Africa that Epstein attended along with Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey. Okay,
Who's also a guy who assaulted you. Yeah.
Kevin Spacey was totally exonerated in every trial that he stood for after Me Too. But again, who cares about the details? And that's why the New York Magazine article was written, because people were asking, who is Jeffrey Epstein? Why is Bill Clinton flying on his plane? He was not known to be a quote unquote pedophile in 2002. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So when you're
okay.
again, there's this avalanche of claims that people make, and if you analyze any one of them discreetly, they tend to fall apart upon bare minimum examination. You've already done 2 or 3 of them in this whole rant.
So you're saying that Jeffrey Epstein was a solo pedophile person, right? He had no other people that came to the island. They came for tax. So Leon Black gave him why did he give him $62.5 million to the Virgin Islands then? Why did Leon Black do that?
Why did Epstein give $62 million?
No. Why did Leon Black give the Virgin Island government $62.5 million in 2023 and 2024 to say, hey, you cannot come after me for any potential.
That was a settlement. That was a settlement.
Yeah, but why would you know
exactly? Donate $63 million.
Huh? He also gave Jeffrey Epstein $15 million, and the guy Wexler, who was the guy in charge of.
It seemed like Leon Black donated $62 million to the Virgin Islands in 2023 out of the goodness, for some mysterious reason. That was pursuant to litigation.
Right, for sex trafficking, exactly. So you kidnapped in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. That's exactly right. So why would he do that?
Because Leon Black is like a multi-billionaire. He doesn't want to be embroiled. Whereas 62 million is a rounding error for him to make the issue.
Why would he give him money for that if he was not, if there's no smoke? Why is he
why would Leon Black not want to prolong litigation that would have
why is he being investigated? Why is he being investigated in the first place?
Because anybody who had the most tangential connection to Epstein in any respect got flooded with litigation.
Right. So this
JP
guy who
Morgan got sued and had to made a $290 million settlement simply because they had Epstein as a client.
right. So this
So of
guy
course, Leon Black is going to be a ripe target for anybody who can make a claim
right.
relating to Epstein, given the relationship that they had.
Right. So the federal judge, you called him the biggest pedophile in the United States history. That's what the federal judge called Jeffrey Epstein. He was just doing it, just getting for himself, procuring these young girls just for himself and no one else. Right. No
I mean,
one,
if
none
that's
of
what
these
you, if
influential.
you don't believe that, then prove it. Have some
So,
evidence.
dude, release
You just claim that Bill Clinton
release
got
all the
younger.
pictures I have.
You just
Those
claim
videotapes.
that Bill Clinton had young women or minors, I guess, pedophilically trafficked to him, and then you admit there's no evidence for that. I'm sorry.
The evidence, the Epstein's.
If I'm going to accuse someone of pedophilic sex crimes, I have to have evidence.
Why
You
is Donald
apparently
Trump?
don't feel that burden.
Why is Donald Trump keep moving the goalposts then about these files? Then why did he say, "Hey, release, do that"? And then now that the push comes to shove, he won't do it. Why is he not doing it?
So you think Trump is a pedophile too?
Dude, he's on tape of his daughter. Listen, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Who says they ask him, "What do you have in common with your daughter?" He says, "Sex." Does any guy say that? I have a daughter. Does anyone say that?
Trump was a TV entertainer. He said
Okay,
goofy
okay,
stuff.
okay. Right, goofy stuff. When he says, "My daughter,"
that he was sexually into his daughter now, so he's also
dude,
a
actually, listen, exactly. Hey, dude, when he says when he was on the View, they said he said I would date my own daughter.
I've seen
When
it.
you've seen it.
Joke.
So when it
Have you ever heard of a joke? He was a comedian.
Sir, no one. So the joke about their own daughter. You know when guys say, "What the Access Hollywood tape was a joke too, right?" That's a joke too, right? Taking a Tic Tac and assaulting women. That's a joke too.
That had nothing to do with pedophilia. That was how Trump consorted with models.
Mm-hmm.
And
so let me ask a question.
When you're rich and famous, I mean, people want to attribute all this mystery.
Oh yeah,
this idea that rich and famous guys can surround themselves with young, beautiful women and maybe have sex with them. Isn't that the underage time?
No, underage women is different.
Bring it into the realm of pedophilia.
Yes, having sex with underage women is called pedophilia, right? That's the definition. And guess what? He was on he was on the Howard Stern show. I've listened to Howard Stern a lot, and he said when he was head of the Miss Teen Universe, these girls are under 18. He said I saw them naked in their dressing room, and he's laughing about it.
Those were girls who were in.
Oh yeah,
right. Who were above 8.
Miss Teen Universe, which I think is people 18.
Donald Trump is a pedophile. Okay, that's your claim.
Oh yeah. That's you think you're right. So everyone else is supposedly a pedophile, and all these guys in power are into weird stuff. A lot of them are, but Donald Trump somehow is immune to all this other stuff, right? When we got ample evidence of the guy, he's a convicted felon. You can say whatever you want.
No, he is bipartisan. You claim that both Bill Clinton and Donald Trump are pedophiles. I'm saying
I do. I absolutely do. I absolutely do. So release release the 10 binders and the videos.
I feel like this conversation is not going anywhere because No, 1 second, Crypto, because I feel like you're scattergun in a lot of points without getting anywhere. So let me ask questions where you can specifically directly answer. And by the way, my position is the same as Tracy's. But that being said, I do feel like I don't think.
And yet, I gradually convince you every time that I take part in one of these. I'm working on it.
Nah, I'm not. I'm just I'm just fair guy. Listen, you make a good point. I'll say you make a good point. If you say something crap, I'll say something crap. I'm not. Isn't that deep? I'm the most honest guy in the universe, Michael. So anyway, Crypto, let me just ask you. So something specifically, right? So I think Michael asked a fair question, and I want to hear your answer on it. So normally, when you blackmail someone, you blackmail them for a reason because you want something in return, right? So, for example, you blackmail someone because you'll say, "Look, give me something." So, Michael's question to you was when Clinton was, and by the way, I do think there was some, but I just want to hear from what your position is. When Clinton was being blackmailed by Epstein, what was he being blackmailed for? What did he want in return from Clinton? Not what he gave Clinton. What did he want from Clinton?
That may be above my pay grade, so I'm gonna be honest. But I think this guy, my theory is, and I'm just a simple human.
Maybe he designated Hamas a terrorist organization while he was which he did. Clinton also was the first person who gave access to the Israelis to basically the precursor to the F-35 program. Clinton was also the first person to lift restrictions of sales for supercomputers to Israel, because before that it was banned. So just those are just few examples. But yeah, anyway, do continue.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, this guy Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm trying to help you out that crypto.
Obviously, I think Jeffrey Epstein, most likely, just based on what I've read about him and all that, looking research into it, he was an agent of Israel because the guy had a lot of money from out of nowhere, and they set him up to get information and intel on a lot of powerful people throughout the world. And it may have been he may have been an Israeli Mossad agent. His girlfriend's father, Robert Maxwell, he was an IDF agent who was celebrated by Israel when he died. They feted him when he with his funeral in Israel. So was this guy an asset? Yes, and he got dirt on a lot of different people, and they probably use it for their own means. I'm not sure what they use it for. I can't.
Okay.
So,
But I
Suleiman,
do
just let me
think.
give you a point of information here. So there's a
Yeah, go
comment
on.
that I just saw under this space where and somebody tagged me, so I happened to see it. And this guy says, "There's no way M. Tracey ain't a pedophile. There's no reason to protect these guys so fiercely." So just to give you a little of an insight into why nobody in their right mind bothers to apply any critical scrutiny to any aspect of the story, because that's the kind of crap that you get inundated with. I get that 24/7 now. Everybody wants to claim that I'm personally a pedophile. And what should I do? Say I'm not a pedophile? Okay, I'm not. I don't have sympathy for pedophiles. But that doesn't matter. If you could say that a million times, it's still what you're going to get inundated with, all this defamatory idiocy. And so that creates an incentive for people to not do any rational scrutiny of the story, because who wants to be barraged with that BS
I agree.
all the time?
I never
I
said you were a
agree with you.
defender,
One
Michael. I
second,
never said
crypto.
you're
One
Michael.
second, bro. We're
Go
having
ahead.
some conversation. Like, I agree with you that, Michael. Listen, this is unfortunately the way people are. And listen, I have no issue with you asking these questions, because in reality, I do think there's a major issue in our society where there is a lot of false accusations against men, and whenever you try and defend those men based on those false accusations, then they'll call you like a rape apologist, even though the argument isn't that even though what they don't understand is you not that you support rape. Of course, rape does occur, but that the problem is now in current society, rape has been weaponized to destroy
Well,
men.
this is even worse. They're saying that you're a pedophile, so you're in favor of raping children. That's the claim that's made now if you apply a
Ye-
modicum of critical scrutiny to the
Yeah, I
story.
mean, listen, I agree with you on that, because look, as you know, like my initial thing of becoming big on Twitter was that I believe I was the only one who pushed back on this like Tate stuff, and therefore they used to say the same thing to me, but like, I wasn't bothered. It is what it is. Like, people just cry, whatever. But the point is, coming back to it, obviously we're dealing with the veracity of like your claims, and so yeah, in terms of that, what's your thoughts on that? That there were certain things that maybe Clinton done uniquely for Israel, and possibly that could have been for Epstein, because of Epstein.
I mean, Clinton was obviously hugely pro-Israel. I'm not denying that. He actually ran in 1992, criticizing George H.W. Bush, who was then the Republican incumbent, for being insufficiently supportive of Israel. It's similar to what Trump did in 2024. He was denouncing Biden and Kamala for being not just insufficiently supportive of Israel, but actually pro-Hamas or pandering to anti-Semites, that sort of thing. So this happens over and over again in U.S. politics.
Could that be because
And
of
I just
Epstein?
don't. And if people want to connect that to Epstein, I mean, you got to have evidence. I think there's the thing that maddens
No,
me
no. The
about this
problem with
is
your
that
argument about evidence.
there's like a a wealth of other reasons to attribute Clinton's pro-Israel worldview to that don't have
Michael,
to
the problem with
involve
your
illicit sex trafficking rings or pedophilic blackmail.
Well, one second.
And
Like
same with
Epstein.
Trump.
No, but one second. You did say that you like when I brought this up previously. You did say that you weren't denying Epstein's links to Israel. It was more about the sex blackmailing issue. Anyway, that being said, in terms of coming back to the point what you're saying. Uh, oh shit! What was the point? I had to push back against you, but I'm half asleep now because it's like 4 a.m. here. What was it? I forgot. I forgot the point. I was.
Maybe you should get some sleep. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But in terms of what you said, no, I don't agree. Oh, evidence, that's it. Like the thing that you're asking for is the $1 million question that what people want. People want the information so that they can look at the evidence. The problem with your argument is you're saying,
I'm in
oh,
favor of the
okay,
information coming out. Put out. I agree with, actually, ironically, you agree with Dershowitz here. Dershowitz has always said, put out all
listen,
the
don't put
information.
me on the same page with Dershowitz, bro.
No, but I'm sorry, but I hate to break it to you, but you agree with him here.
Yeah, he's
Dershowitz has
he's saying it
always
for fake
said,
news, bro.
Dershowitz has always said that he would waive any right to privacy over any piece of information that was in any record anywhere in possession of the government, because he wanted it all out, maximum disclosure. I'm in favor of that. I think one of the reasons why that so much information continues to be under seal, for example, in the Southern District of New York, under the order of 2 judges, is because a lot of that material is being concealed at the behest of the quote unquote victims, right? Because the victims are given such deference now in the legal system that discovery materials that might impinge on their credibility is kept under seal, because we have to protect the victims. That's the big mantra.
Yeah, that's
And
the
there could
argument.
also be
But Michael,
defamatory materials against other people.
Michael, you're not. First of all, let me finish my point.
So
The
I
second
agree,
thing
put
is
it
you're not
all out.
addressing.
That's
You're
why
not
Bannon should
addressing my
release
point
the
as
16
well.
hours of interviews.
No, but you're not addressing my point as well. That you're asking for something in a situation where that thing isn't fully available, and therefore what people are relying on is an interwebbed connection of information to then come to that conclusion, because in reality we're not going to have conclusive evidence unless there was a video, unless we had this information released holistically. And so when you don't have this information released holistically and in depth and systematically, then you rely on what is piecing together information, and hence why people like Ryan Dawson have pieced together the information, demonstrating this interlinked web, and created a list himself based on the information that is at hand. So that's where I think when you're asking for something, you're asking for it in a situation where everybody wants that information so they can have conclusive evidence.
Okay, I mean, I'm in favor of maximum disclosure. So I don't know what else to say. If you're going to accuse Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, whomever, of being guilty of
Well,
pedophilic
do
sex
you think
crimes,
Donald Trump's
I
gay,
just feel
bro?
like you have an evidentiary burden that so many people on X don't feel that they have at all. They'll just spout anything. It doesn't matter if there's a lack of evidence. They'll say, "Oh, because there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire." First of all, that's a cliche that I think should be retired
Yeah, that's
somewhat.
just fake.
I remember hearing that about
Yeah, that's
Trump
fake.
Russia, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's so many connections or contacts
Yeah, you can
that
just create
somebody like
smoke. You can just
ancillary in
create
Trump's
smoke.
orbit.
You could just create smoke. So that's, yeah, I agree. That's just
Yeah,
stupid
people
statement.
people blow smoke up their ass. So where there's smoke, there's fire does not really satisfy the evidentiary burden, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
But
there you go.
no, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. But yeah, we need the information out there so that we can actually, see the veracity of it. But coming back to the point at hand, the issue you got with Epstein is, that's what I was gonna say to you about the Trump letter. I said, do you not think, Tracy, that the Trump letter probably has more? If you believe it's real, do you think Trump's gay?
Do I think he's gay? Oh, so that's a new theory. No, I do not think that Donald
Bro,
Trump
did you
is
see
gay.
the letter? It was like a love letter. It was like a love letter between two
Yeah,
guys.
it was a spoof letter. People write spoof
It's like a
letters
love
to each
letter. Like
other
I've
for their
never even
50th
written
birthday.
I've not even written like no chick that type of letter before.
Well, maybe you should try. No, I don't think Trump is gay. I mean, Trump, no.
It's a joke.
Silly.
It's a joke, Tracy. It's a joke based on the kind of a very, intimate, romantic nature
I mean,
of the letter.
last night I called for there to be a new musical created. Maybe I'll write a musical called Wonderful Secrets, and there will be a musical performance of that dialogue. I think that would be the best possible
That's a
outcome
good
of all
idea.
of
You and Crypto could be like
yeah,
you and
exactly.
Crypto could be like the romantic couple.
You could
Right.
be the narrator.
I'll be the narrator. I'll be the narrator. You can have a northern British accent. But anything else you want to say, Tracy, before we wrap up?
No. You're where are you from in Britain? Like Manchester or something like that?
Bro,
Or
listen,
no. Let me guess. Did I get it right?
It was close. It's close. I'm from.
Hold on. I was gonna guess maybe Birmingham.
Oh my God, the Birmingham people have got the worst accent. No way.
Okay, so
They're like, I'm from Birmingham. I
differentiate.
like football. Do I sound like
I
that?
can differentiate northern
Would I
and
be the king of
southern
Twitter if I
English
had a
accents,
Birmingham
but
accent?
I can't differentiate like Liverpool from Birmingham from Manchester accent. That's too nuanced.
I'm from
And then people from Glasgow, I just can't understand at all.
So
that I can identify.
I'm from Middlesbrough. So do you know where Newcastle is?
Yeah.
I'm close to there.
All right, there you go.
So it's the northeast, the golden place.
All right.
Well,
done.
we often say, how could a guy from the north of England with Pakistani origin become so big on X? The chances are extremely low, but it is what it is. We managed to do it, right, guys?
I'm just a guy from New Jersey.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys from New Jersey who are big and famous, and Michael, that isn't a unique thing, right? Guys, first of all, I appreciate Michael coming on the space. Always love him coming on because he pushes back on a lot of the positions, and I always think like that's what makes it entertaining, where you hear different ideas and thoughts and have different conversation. I feel like I like to I give people a platform to be able to have these real conversations, and then we're able to hear these different positions, even if I may or may not agree with various people. But always appreciate Michael Tracey coming on and giving his perspective. So I appreciate that. I appreciate Ryan Dawson.
And people, just as a plug, I mentioned this when I first came, but if people want to hear more about this Bannon angle that I feel is just not like shockingly poorly understood, go look at my page, and I posted the article that
You
I
should send
wrote
it to
today.
Elon Musk because he's
I
always
know I
attacking
should.
Bannon.
Maybe he'll retweet it.
Yeah, I think he
hasn't
might.
interacted with me in a while.
I think he might because he's proper anti-Bannon, isn't he? And that gives a bit more substance to his attack on Bannon rather than just saying you're on the Epstein list.
I'll tweet it at him now. I mean, that's a good idea. And Roger Stone, who also has a feud with Bannon.
This is what I do. This is why I'm the king of Twitter. Like, I didn't become big on Twitter by magic. There's skill behind it. But appreciate you, Michael, for coming on. Everyone, do check out Michael's article. I'm sure it's golden. I'm sure it'll make you rage, though. I bet it's like what you're talking about. Why are you defending Epstein? That being said, and look, I know we know you may disagree with Michael because he's Ben Shapiro's love child now. Like Barry Shapiro loves him. That being said,
Ben Shapiro has agreed with me on a grand total of one issue in 15 years, and now I'm his love child.
well, that's one more than this should be, Michael. Like, come on, Shapiro has zero
Well,
credibility.
you agree with Dershowitz. We already established that.
No, that's not impossible. Dershowitz is saying it for fake news. He's probably on, he's on the list, so he's not gonna. He may be on the list. I don't get sued. He may be on the list. So, and he's Epstein's lawyer, isn't he? So he's already a sicko. So anyway, that being said, appreciate Michael coming on the stage as always. Appreciate all the speakers coming on. I think it was a golden space, especially during the back end. Appreciate Ryan Dawson. Obviously, I got a lot of Ryan's a good friend of mine. I really do back him. I know Whitney Webb has got people attacking Ryan. That being said, Ryan's my boy.
That's the funniest feud ever. I want to see that come to some kind of climax.
Well, you've Whitney Webb's doing a big thread. I don't know if you've seen it. She's doing a thread, and there's another thread in a thread.
I did see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, Ryan's my boy. I think Ryan's, Ryan obviously is the OG. So maybe she's taking it off him, maybe not. I think I'll have to go with what Ryan said, but we'll have to see. Ryan's going to provide the evidence, and Ryan can't hit now. He can't miss now. He's done all this. He's built this up. So we'll have to see. He said he's going to bring some in the next few days. So we'll have to see about that. But we appreciate Ryan. He has provided a significant amount of research on this issue, and he's always coming on these spaces. I know he came and spoke to Michael in good faith. I think that conversation would have been really good if he didn't have to disappear, but I'm sure they'll be back again because I think people should hear that because obviously Ryan is the number one expert. I think Michael now is Ben Shapiro's anointed expert, and so therefore there'll be a good push conversation there. But guys, golden space. Appreciate all you guys for joining in. Oh, Flip, I just forgot something. I feel so bad. 1 second. Sorry, I need to do the super chats. There's a few. I was about to end the space. I thought I was going to sleep, but I'm not. Right. Okay, there's a super chat from Naeem. £50 super chat. Appreciate your support, Naeem. Appreciate you supporting the space. At the general, the Epstein files would incriminate most of the congressmen and people in the 3-letter agencies. It would possibly take away all trust anyone would have in the government. That's a £10 super chat. This is Gary's argument of why they shouldn't release the Epstein files because he thinks it would just destroy the entire government, destroy the entire many big companies in the United States of America, and therefore it's in the interest of the United States to keep those hidden. So that's the argument that Gary was making previously of why Trump isn't releasing it. Isn't because of himself, but he's trying to protect America. Another £25 super chat. This is from Abu Ivy. Said, "I'd be pissed bored if you didn't host these spaces. This is what we do. We give it to the people. We try and provide content and information. And I think you got quite a lot today. Michael, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you, bro.
All right. Always a pleasure.
Brilliant, guys. Right, guys, we will be back tomorrow. I believe it's going to be slightly later than normal. So it could be like 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. We normally are between 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, but I think tomorrow it might be 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern is probably roughly where it's going to be. I don't know what the exact time is because it depends on where I'm gonna, I need to get somewhere before I can do the space. But watch out for that. It's gonna be fire. Unless there's breaking news, then we'll start a space immediately, as you know. So have your notifications on. Other than that, golden space. Appreciate every single one of you. As always, appreciate the love. Appreciate you guys joining in. Appreciate you guys listening. And for sure, we will see you next time.